As a small biz pro, and so we grow, using procurement, program, and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Business Zone with
Crystal. How are you today?
You can look like you had a little hiccup there, Crystal.
Yeah, can you hear me now? I just switched over.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
All right.
So this is a wonderful, wonderful Friday afternoon, nice and sunny outside. I've been out in these entrepreneurial streets, and folks, I'm telling you, it's amazing. Opportunities are flowing. We're trying to get transactions going between the American small businesses and the Afro-Caribbean diaspora. So that's what we're doing here. Over the next few weeks, we're also going to extend this series, guys. So many of you can get involved and try to become a part of this transaction. We call it the Triangular Business Opportunity Trade 2.0. This is regarding Garvey's economic program. So my co-host and I, we've been doing this, and we've been making some connections. We've got some opportunities lined up, guys, for you guys. So tune in.
Exactly, because we actually have to look at not being so connected to the country that we live in. And I think if we look around the world, every big business is operating globally, and so that's really what we have to look at as well, is how do we actually start taking our business abroad, not just working within our backyards, but literally learning how to do business outside of the country that we live in, and really for no more than to just broaden our horizons and be able to create revenue outside of where we are. That's the ultimate reason, is to not limit our opportunities, which is what we usually do. And some people never do business outside of the city they live in, not just the country, the city they live in. Would you agree?
True. I agree. I totally agree. And that is why we've been looking for so many opportunities for small businesses who are not familiar with looking in other marketplace for opportunities. But that's why we're stepping off there. We're making these connections. We're trying to firm up relationships, guys, so you guys can benefit. All the small and micro businesses in our network, that's what we're trying to do here. And my co-host and I, as you guys know, we've been in this business for over 60 years combined, and we really want to help small businesses to win. We currently run a mentorship program where we have a 12-class program where we teach small businesses how to become business ready, contract ready, bank loan ready, and how to go after government contracts. There's over $600 billion in government contract opportunities, guys, that is just out there for the taking. Many small businesses are not participating in those opportunities. And that's why we're preparing you to go there. Go get the opportunity. You're not by yourself. You're not by yourself at all. We're here to help you guys too. So my co-host, we had you scheduled to do the QuickBooks classes, I think this coming Tuesday, but the bank has not yet presented. Huh?
I think I saw that. So, Can you hear me?
So the bank has not yet presented their info on lines of credit. So I've been trying to connect with them, and I still need to talk to them some more. to see if they're available to do it on Tuesday. Then I'll have you do your presentation the following week. But if I can't
Okay.
get a hold of them, I'll have you do your presentation this Tuesday. You see what I mean?
Okay. Well,
So
just let me know.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
once the show is over today, I'm gonna reach back out to the bank and see if they're gonna have their guy do the presentation for small businesses on Tuesday. If not, you will be that person to do your
Okay. And if
part.
not, it'll be the next Tuesday.
Yes, 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 yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So
That works for me.
I see we got some of our proteges here in the chat. Hello, Miss
Yes,
Izette.
we do.
She said, "Good afternoon, coaches. How are you
Yeah.
doing?" You know,
Yeah. Mhm.
I must say, Izette, man, she's one of my better proteges in this program. She's done everything I told her to do, man. I cannot point a finger at her and say she's not doing anything. She's doing things. She's going out. She's following the instructions she received and the guidance she received in the program, and she's implementing it. She's making it happen. She's got her 12-month marketing plan together, and she's following the steps, man. So that makes me so proud. And you know, when if you get a chance to see her work or talk to her, man. Her materials are just amazing. They're high quality, and the services she provides is just phenomenal. So, folks, if you're looking for a notary or a live scan company that can help you out in terms of employment or background check, uh, is that live scan notary company? That's the one you want to check out. So I'll say it again because I messed it up a little bit. It's Is that Live Scan Notary LLC, not company, it's LLC. Don't
Yeah.
forget the LLC. All right.
Well, you guys heard that here, and we're always wanting to support the businesses that we support and that we help, and we want to be able to extend that out to you guys. So, again, the only way we grow is to grow together. And so I hope you guys reach out to her. In fact, I didn't know that she maybe it didn't it didn't resonate with me because in order for me to teach this past summer, I had to have my live scan done
Oh
in
yeah.
order to be at the school. But I had to. They told me that like 2 days before. 2 days before we were getting ready to start the course, so I had to run around trying to find somebody, and I did find somebody over too far from me, but not too far from me. But I
Yeah.
didn't. I guess it just didn't resonate. But now I know. Um,
Yeah.
and so I don't know how often I have to repeat that, but if I have to repeat that next year, then I will definitely keep her in mind.
Yeah, she is amazing, man. Her and Patricia, both of them, they both do the notary work. I don't know if Patricia does a live scan, but I know Izette does a live scan. So and she'll travel a certain distance, to meet with clients to get this thing done. So yeah, she understands the differentiators that small businesses must provide in order to win over their competitors. So she she knows what to do, man. She do those things to add value, her value proposition. So, and these are things she learns in the program. So I'm just excited about that.
Well, that's awesome. And she's committed to coming here on Friday. So we thank
Oh
you for
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty awesome as well. So thank you, that. And so anyone that need a notary, you always need it for something that's going on in your world. So there you go. So she put it there, and you guys, if you're on YouTube, you actually can see it on the screen. You can see it in the chat, in the comments, on the screen, and then we'll make sure that everyone else has that. So, Gilbert, how was your week?
Oh, my week was pretty good, man. Pretty good. Other than the medical stuff I had to do, I had my mentorship class on Tuesday. We did elevator pitch. You know, they developed their elevator pitch, and then they presented their elevator pitch. So that was fun.
Okay, yeah, that's always fun.
That's fun watching the proteges pitch their elevator pitch and make tweaks and, you know, little edits and represent and all of that. So it was good. It was good. They've come a long way. You know? Yeah. They've come a long way from when they first started, you know.
You know, it's so funny because this week we had the graduation for the MBDA cohort that I do coaching for at the Urban League, and so they had to pitch their 7-minute pitch to bankers.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
That was a long time. Our guys, they did 30 seconds.
All right, this was 7 minutes, and but they had it down. They had copies for their pitch, and, but you know, what was interesting, there were 55 people that were actually registered in the program.
Wow! So all 55 of them presented?
No, all 55 didn't show up for the graduation. And you know why all 55 didn't show up for the graduation.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that did not think they were ready decided not to come. And so that was interesting all by itself. And so one of the students said, or one of the business owners says, is she looking around the room going, there was far more at the last live event or last time we all met in person. What happened to them? I said, well, you know how they always say when you're at, like, you go to college and that first day and everybody's sitting there and they say, look around the room. There are 55 people, you know, here ready for their law degree or whatever. But at the end, there will not be 55 sitting here. So that was kind of the situation. The 55 that were not ready were not there. And but the ones that were, oh my God, every time they would come out of a pitch and they were able to secure an appointment, get a date on the calendar, they were so funny, Gilbert. They would run over. It was, you know, about 5 of the coaches were there. They'd run over, and you would think they were kids in candy stores, not business owners. And they come, oh my God, I got an appointment. And Cargill and I were dying laughing. I mean, they were super excited. And it's like, well, how did the bankers like it? But they really liked it. And they had some great questions. And so we have an appointment. And I was just, it was fun and humorous at the same time.
I love it, man. I love it. So how many ended up attending the graduation?
I would say there were probably maybe 15 to 16 businesses that ended up.
What? Of 55? So 40 of them didn't show up. Holy moly.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 20, but I don't think it was 20. It was a lot
that's a large amount for not being ready, man.
Yeah, some of them, as one lady told me because they have to, you know, sign into us and we have to at least have 2 to 3 coaching sessions. So this one had just finally got to me, and she said to me, you know, I said, well, how did it go? What are your thoughts on it? This is like doing a session, not at the graduation. She goes, I thought I was in business. She goes, by the time, and I was the first. I teach 3 financial workshops for that event for that cohort. And so the second one is me.
Yeah.
And you know how I do me.
Right.
And the first one was about foundation and structure. And so when she finally got, she goes, I thought I was ready, but really what I had was a name, an EIN, and a thought for a business. She said, I ain't nowhere near ready.
You know, that makes a great testimonial, and I love that. It would be nice if she could say that again into a microphone and get it recorded, put it out there.
Right. She said, all I had was a name, an
And then
EIN
EIN.
number, and a concept for the business. I didn't have nothing else other than that. And here I am
Wow.
thinking I am in business. She goes, I have so much to do, but I am very appreciative for all of the classes because it really did help show that there is so much more to a business than coming up with the idea and securing a name for the idea. And she had a
That's
DBA.
good.
That's what she
That's
had her
good.
doing business as. That
That's
was
good.
that. So
Yeah,
that worked.
so that's what the week was, huh?
That was the week. So that was the graduation was on Tuesday, and then the
Yeah.
rest was kind of just catching up on stuff. But yeah, that was the highlight of my week. Was
Yeah,
that?
we need to finalize our graduation date too, because folks, there's a lot of moving parts, and folks are moving back and forth doing vacation because we're approaching that September month. So some people are going on vacation. So I think ours is going to be more closer to the end of the month. So the end of September. So
Okay.
we'll see. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's when you guys have when you have it, and it's so with when we're navigating with people, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
because you got to kind of get the people.
Well, I'll let
Um,
you know. I'll let you know, co-host, because I would love for you to be there too, and so you can speak on, the value of being in business and some of the key requirements. Just like you speak to your folks over there and the kids from the Biz Camp program.
yeah.
Maybe we can lend a lot of that expertise to my group as well, so they can learn from the queen.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I think Gil said to me. He said, "Crisco, I have to say, I have to give you and Rhonda a compliment." He goes, "Your kids, they light years ahead of most of the
Yeah,
adult
that's true.
that we actually." I said, "Yeah, well, what can I say? They're starting with a fresh." The foundation.
Yeah,
They have to learn foundation before they can
yeah,
actually they have a business. And yeah,
right,
they don't have to have started the business for the pitch competitions, but
right.
the business, the idea has to be pretty solid before we even put them in a competition. So, which is the way everybody really should have been taught how to do business.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, that's not the case. All righty. So I am excited that this is just our this particular series is really the garbage. Oh, is really catching on, I think, and so many things, during the week just kind of solidifies that we're on the right track. I don't know if you feel that way, but conversations we start having with people, and I'm meeting people, and I'm telling them to tune into the Business Zone every week. And then what's the topic? And I say, oh yeah, that's a great topic. Yeah, I will do that. So I think a lot of people are really feeling what we're feeling. That
yeah,
we have to kind of rethink how we are doing business and make sure that we have opportunities and be able to pick up on those opportunities.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people are definitely interested in doing business elsewhere, in other markets, and we're helping to foster that. And that's reflective in our podcast that we do, because a lot of people are downloading our podcast to say, hey, let me review this material. Let me see what they were talking about. Oh, we can do business in Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Bahamas. We can do business in those areas. All right, let's check it out and see, what type of services can we offer? What type of products can we distribute over there? So yeah, those are the types of things that we're going through. And today we want to do part 2 of last week, where we talk about building relationships with the different countries. All right. So
Okay, I'm back. My connection went crazy.
so a lot of people are talking about Black unity, but the Black unity that we're talking about is from a business standpoint. So that's the kind of thing we're putting out there in the marketplace and trying to help businesses make the connection. So
Exactly.
so co-host, do you want to kick this off for us?
Yeah, we're ready to go. But before we do, let us do our little station break here. So we want
Oh
everyone to
yes,
go
yes.
our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, become part of our family, our the Business Zone family. This is the place where you tune in and get incredible information about being in business and what it takes to build a strong business and making sure that your business is ready to grow. And so we just can't keep operating as solopreneurs. It takes so much to make money as a solopreneur, and you really hit a ceiling, and there's no other way to get there because it's only you, and so you can't continue to be the all there is unless you have employees or you have partners or contracts that's going to help you grow. And so that's what we're talking about. But we're also, right now, as Gilbert just said, we're introducing you to the opportunity of doing business outside of doing business globally. Let's just say that we're going to do business globally, but our focus is on the African diaspora. And so we're going to show you and talk to you and teach you how to go about doing that. We're just not going to just tell you about it. We are really excited about the process that we're putting in place in order to help you do that. So go over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, or take a picture of the QR code that is on the screen right at this present moment and join the family. It doesn't cost you anything, but I tell you what, you will gain so much value just by being part of Business Zone family.
Excellent, excellent. And I wanna shine some light on something, because some folks, co-host, what I've learned in the entrepreneurship space, a lot of us entrepreneurs are delusional. We are delusional. We think certain things will happen with little or no effort. It's just gonna happen. It's gonna magically appear. We're gonna get rich and we're gonna live that great life. So I just want to shine some light a little bit on a certain path. Now, you mentioned earlier about solopreneur. Now, there's a lot of solopreneur out there. As a matter of fact, there are more solopreneurs out there than there is LLC and C Corp and S Corp businesses. So, just so you guys know, as a solopreneur, you have a ceiling. You have a ceiling as to how much money you can make, how much income you can generate as a solopreneur, because it's just you. Solopreneur means solo, one, just you, running a business. So I've never, well, I'm not going to say I've never seen. I rarely see where a solopreneur make more than $160,000 a year. 160 solopreneur usually makes anywhere from zero, let's say 10,000, anywhere from 10,000 to 160,000 a year. And that's because that's the max they can go. They cannot do any more. They've stretched themselves out in terms of energy and effort, and unless they've gotten a government contract that's paying a lot more than that. That's the only exception for the solopreneur, for them to make a lot more. Studies have shown that many solopreneur, they get transactional opportunities where they provide a service for a small business or provide a product, and that's about it. And through that kind of transaction, the income generated from that, it usually doesn't get past 160K. But if you are experienced enough to um, to venture into government contracts, then you could make a quarter of a million or even 350K. But that's not everybody. It's just a handful. So I want to put that out there. So small businesses or micro businesses, I call them micro businesses that are solopreneurs, to let you know that you have a current ceiling that you're working with right now, which is 160K max that you could make. But if you get involved in government contracts, then you can certainly make a lot more than that in terms of revenue. And it could go up to 300 to 350K if you get good, solid government contracts. So keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. If you want to make a half a mil, then you're gonna have to do some things a little differently. So I just want to put that out there, co-host.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that, Gilbert, because that's what we're really talking about, right? Is that you want to make sure that your opportunities are there. And it's not a bad thing to not be working all by yourself, actually,
Yeah,
to be quite honest. It is
yeah,
really not a bad thing. And so people, I hear a lot of people going, no, I don't want to I don't want to work with anybody. You can't trust partners, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, like with everything, it requires due diligence, and but you shouldn't take away or sabotage your own opportunities because you may not be fully aware of how to go about doing that. Don't like say no, and before you've actually had you found the right way to do it, right?
yeah,
Because Gilbert and I were partners, and we all have worked with. We have multiple partners that we work with,
yeah,
but it is a matter of being able to do your due diligence and make sure that the partners are all in line with you,
yeah.
and that's a partnership agreement. So don't just say, "Oh, I've heard that partnerships don't work." Maybe whoever told you their partnership didn't work. That doesn't mean all partnerships don't work.
Yeah,
Their
exactly.
partnership work and their experience with that partner was didn't go well. But that's not to say that uh, the same thing can happen to you because there are things you put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. And
Right.
so that's kind of what we want to do because what we're talking about right now is about being able to do business with each other, and we can't do that. It's
Right.
literally impossible for us to do this type of work that we're talking about by yourself. That just is not going to
And
happen that way.
that's a good reason why having a 12 to 18 months marketing plan is very good and helpful, because then you can spread out across 12 to 18 months what your plans are, what is it you're trying to do with whom, and how you're going to go about approaching it. And then once you put those systems in place and generate the resources that you're going to need, it will get you much closer to that goal where you exceed 160K and start stepping into quarter of a million, 300 to 350K per year revenue. So, it's doable, guys, but only the serious ones, only the ones who are dedicated will really make this happen.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is to how we can go about creating partnerships, because that's what we're talking about. Not going at this solo. We're not going in as the saviors of a country or countries. We're going in to really talk about how do we logistically, realistically create more business for ourselves and a trajectory of our economics and our income for our businesses. We're looking for new opportunities that are out there, and I think there's Gilbert and I, through our research, feel that this is definitely an entity that will work, or a concept that will work. And so we hope you guys feel the exact same as well. Okay.
Excellent.
So let's jump on in here, Gilbert. Let's talk about our very first. So let me do a real quick summary of what transpired last week for those of
Yeah.
you that weren't on air with us. So last week, our conversation was everybody's talking Black unity, but what are we going to build if that's what we're talking about, unity? We just not can't be unifying just for the sake of unifying. We have to have a reason and a goal, and so that goal is we're building a coalition, a collaboration between Africa, or the Caribbean, Africa, and basically Black Americans around the diaspora, around the world. But we also are starting with us because we're here in the United States. And so the conversation we're having is going from a conversation to economic collaboration. What does that look like? How do we go about doing that? And so our core conversation is how we got started last week is the African diaspora in agreement that unity is essential? And so, and when we ask that question, what are we actually building together? We're not just talking about coming together from a cultural standpoint, cultural unity. We want to do that at some point, but that's not the only thing. We're talking about trade, we're talking about investment, we're talking about ownership, we're talking about networks, and we're talking about institutions. And so that's what our conversation was about last week. We just kind of reflected on the surge of global conversations that are happening on the continent of Africa, that's happening in the Caribbean, here in Black America, and we're talking about diaspora unity. And so the key shift is people aren't just celebrating our culture. We're talking about economic alignment. So that's so much bigger. It's global. And so we're excited about it. And so last week we talked about unity without strategy doesn't change our economic conditions. Business without a strategy doesn't change anybody's economic conditions. We want to have we have to find out what are the key resources and reason why we can come together. Okay, so that's kind of what we're talking about, and so other people are talking about it as well. Africa has a natural resources. They have emerging industries. Countries are repositioning themselves with new opportunities that are presented themselves. Human capital, which is us as humans. In America, what we bring is a consumer power. So you all should know by this time, Gilbert and I talk about it all the time, is that Black folks in this country alone, I'm not talking across the world, I'm talking about right here in America, we have a consumer power of almost close to $2 trillion. And so that is a negotiating power just by itself. Then we have a lot of professional expertise, and we have access to major markets out there. And so that's what we're talking about. And so, Gilbert, what are you feeling on this area as well?
Well, we also cover the 5 pillars of the Garvey 2.0 economic collaboration model, which I really want us to hammer out there because this is the direction in which we're going in order to form this Afro Caribbean diaspora business opportunity trading partnership. So, the 5 pillars of the Garvey 2.0 economic collaboration model is what we covered last week, and I want to reiterate it, which is trade. Trade is the first one, buy and sell across the diaspora. The second pillar point is investments. We got to invest. And we're not talking about just invest in the usual suspect models and systems. We're talking about new systems. We're talking about investing in Caribbean nations, Caribbean products, Caribbean services, Caribbean systems, and do the same thing with African diaspora. Africa has 54 countries. So we're talking about doing business. We may not be able to do business with all 54 countries, but do business with as many of those 54 as possible. And a lot of those is to put capital behind viable businesses. And, those businesses, again, like I say, they could be in any of the 54 African countries or any of the 26 Caribbean nations, which we've picked to be a part of this program. The third pillar of this economic collaboration model is ownership. We want to build assets and institutions. We want to be able to tap into that, be a part of things. We form alliances, and in that alliances, we want to have shares, we want to have structures. We want to be a participant of that. No longer are we looking to be an employee of certain systems. We want to be an employer so we can hire folks and help them to grow, help them to take care of their community. So that's pillar number 3. Pillar number 4, guys, is networks. We gotta build networks. We gotta make sure we have that connection for entrepreneurs, and that network connection must be intentionally. My co-hosts talk a lot about intentionality. That's what we're trying to do here. Make those connections intentionally. You got to be a part of your marketing plan to connect with companies, to connect with businesses, to connect with systems, to connect with structures that can help you. You must always be a part of a network, guys. Always be a part of a network. That network will get you into doors. You know, whether it's sorority or fraternity systems or whatever it is that's out there, you want to get into some kind of system, some kind of networking system that can help your business along. Because there ought to be people sitting in either close or far away locations that's looking out for your business as well. When they're thinking of business opportunities, they're thinking of yours. They go, you know what? Crystal's businesses can benefit from some of this opportunity. Why don't I reach out to her, see if she'd like to get involved in these transactions? That's the kind of thing, guys, that is very important to this Garvey 2.0 collaboration model. So that was pillar number 4. What do you think pillar number 5 is, guys? Institutions. So we want to create systems that survive individual personalities and political administrations. We want to build systems that survives those things. Because when things get political, it tends to favor only a few. We know of politics. We're born into politics. We've seen politics work. They usually don't work in our favor, guys. So by having institutions available to help us survive individual personalities, and all their political administrations, guys, you're forming a unification bond. And we've seen this before, guys. We've seen it before. We talk about Black Wall Street all the time. We talk about how things were in between 1887 and 1925. We talk about that. We've seen how it is. You know, certain groups came together. They pool their resources. They build together. They didn't care about what, the others were saying about them. They did their thing and they were thriving. They invented things. A lot of our invention came during that period. And that was a period where, post slavery, where folks didn't have the resources, the financial resources to go out and buy buildings, buy land, and all of that. But they did what they could to pool their resources with other individuals. That's where the institutional mentality comes in, guys. So 5 pillars we're talking about of this Garbage 2.0 collaboration economic model: trade, investment, ownership, networks, and institutions. So that's what we covered last week, and that's what we're advancing in our program here. In the Spanish culture, they say adelante. Let's move forward.
All right. So sounds fantastic. So those were a lot of our key takeaways and from last week. So we're going to continue on that conversation. And as Gilbert said, those pillars are the direction. That's probably part of the map, right, to get us moving forward, so that we understand where we're going. And you have to have that. So we understand, for us to have the diaspora unity, we got to have economic collaboration. That's the real goal. and and we have to create a global economic engine that will connect us, all three of us, and that unity and that collaboration engine requires strategy, trust, and infrastructure. And then we need, as Gilbert just said, we need major institutional investments, so we can create entry points for our small businesses. Because the same thing that happens here in America, you can start a business without money, but to really grow that business, there has to be investments from somewhere in order for you to have the means to go forward with that. And so as entrepreneurs, we want to make sure we stay focused on the value chain positioning, not the $1 billion dreams that we tend to come up with. We all can say, I want to win the lottery, and this is what I'm going to spend my money on once I win the lottery. But there's a strategy to winning the lottery. It just doesn't happen, right? So people that have won big on the lottery, I personally don't believe in luck. I do believe in manifestation, but I don't think I believe in just luck. I don't know. That's just me. I've never been the Vegas type person.
Yeah.
And I think that takes luck.
Yeah.
But we're not talking luck. We're talking actually have to put the elbow grease on and really get down to work so that we can actually make this a reality and not just a dream that we're all talking about. So let's get started, Gilbert. So we had a great opportunity this past weekend. So we're not just talking. People are talking to us, and
people are hearing us, and they're responding.
They are responding, and so someone reached out to Gilbert and introduced them to someone in Jamaica, and so we had a really very invested conversation, I think. On Sunday last.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very informative. It helped us create some of the direction that we need to correct, or the things that we need to put in place for this all to become a reality. And we learned some interesting things from that conversation. It's always good to see the other side.
We learn about their landscape. their
Yeah.
marketing, their markets, and some of the rules, some of the barriers, the challenges that they experience in their marketplace. And like every business marketplace, there's going to be challenges, there are going to be barriers. And we know as small businesses, we experience barriers every day because the system is designed that way. We are very familiar with redlining. We know what redlining is, and I've spoken about redlining on this program before. Redlining is a system that was developed by the government back in 1933 to force certain groups in a certain corner where they cannot achieve any benefits or any rewards, and then other groups get to benefit. So we recognize that. And one of the things that make us so amazing and outstanding is because we never ever let barriers stop us. We never let barriers confine us. And that's why we came up with so many inventions since 1887. We've invented all kinds of things you can think of. We invented the traffic light, the three position traffic light. We've got the extension of the light filament, refrigerated trucks to transport goods and services to extend the life of perishable products. Those things we invented. We've got the GPS system that was invented, the computers. We also invented the color monitor. We used to look at these computers, they were black and white, or some of them had some green text on it, and that's all we could see, messing up our vision. And then it took one African American inventor to come up and say, hey, let's see things in real color. We want to see it in color. And then that's how the color monitor was developed. And we've been using it ever since. We'll never go back to black and white or that green, ugly text that they were using back in the day when they did the first launch to space, and NASA did that first launch. It was that old ugly monitor. So we've seen a lot of these things, guys. And again, like I said, when our backs are against the wall, we become innovators. And right now, our back is against the wall again in terms of economic opportunity and economic growth. And you're going to see a surge, guys, in business opportunities in the Caribbean and also in the African diaspora. My co-host and I are going to make that happen. We're making connections right now. We have a few people that are willing to work with us to make this possible. We're talking some key people in those regions. We've made a connection recently with Jamaica, and that connection that we've developed is teaching us some things that we need to know about those markets, how we can take advantage of the barriers that's there and make them work for our small businesses here. So that's what we're doing, guys. We're not playing around. We're not playing this redlining game. They've been pushing it on us for too long right now. So what we do when certain things present barriers and challenges for us, what do? We find other alternatives. And that's what we're doing, finding other markets that we can do business in right now. So I know many of you are out there right now. You're trying to figure out, how can I do business somewhere else? One of the first things I learned, my background is in organizational development. And in grad school, we've done a lot of studies on, we did international market. We also did domestic markets. We studied how things work, what makes them work, and how they can work together. So one of the things that we learned is that if we can come up with alternatives to make life easier for others, wouldn't that be wonderful? Well, that's where value proposition comes in, because value proposition is about making other people's lives easier. If you can provide them a way in making life easier for them, then they want to hear what you have to say. And that's what our small businesses are doing with this program here on the Business Zone. Coach Crystal and Coach Gilbert, that's what we're doing.
So also, Gilbert, we did learn, and so this will make some of our clients that we've spoken to, or coaching clients, and they felt that we were picking on them, or anybody that's in the technical assistance business coaching field was picking on them. But we learned that business mismanagement or business failure in other countries are happening for the same reason they happen here in America.
That's right. That's right.
The lack of business skills is universal. That's what
Yeah.
we learned.
Yeah. And that's where we come in with our learned expertise over 30 years or more. We can put together systems that can help and aid in those operations. We know that when businesses wait for too long for change to occur, it leads to organizational dry rot. That means organizational dry rot is when things are not maintained, things are not treated, things are not preserved, things are not built over the years, then it start becoming dry rotten. And then when that occurs, then it start crumbling on its own. Just like your house, just like your furniture, just like your car, you don't take care of it over the years, it's gonna fall apart. And that's how businesses fall apart too. So we've learned that in other markets, they're experiencing the same thing, organizational dry rot, where their systems are falling apart and they cannot function the way they ought to. And that's where we come in, so we can help out utilizing the skills and expertise we have. So many small businesses that we approach here in the US and say, hey, let's help you to become business ready, contract ready, funding ready. And we're showing you systems, we're showing you ways how to become that. It doesn't mean we're picking on you. It doesn't mean we're giving you a hard time. We're just trying to make you better. So that's generally how you got to look at it, guys.
Exactly. And so the conversation that we're talking about is so as we bring it all together, we're talking about the political leaders are talking, we're talking, podcasters are talking, other countries, business leaders are now talking, financial institutions. I spoke to someone the other day that was from a financial institution. They too think this is a great way, and that there are opportunities globally that we should all be looking into. So the organization. So what we did find out when we were having this conversation with the individual that we spoke to from Jamaica is it's about the infrastructure, right? We
Yeah.
have to build the infrastructure, and if we're really serious about connecting, that's what we need to talk about. And it's not physical; it's that business infrastructure. So what does that look like, and how do we go about that? And so just as we talk, when those of you that are in Gilbert's course right now, that's what you're talking about, right? Gilbert is
Yeah.
business infrastructure. So businesses fail mainly because the infrastructure is not there.
That's correct.
Right? And so what does that really look like? So we're talking about we're going to have to, one, train and teach and educate on making sure that our businesses are working so that they're business ready, loan ready or investment ready, and contract ready, right? That's the first thing we're talking about. And
Yeah.
then we have to develop, and we're in section 5, Gilbert, so we can go with I'll do the business directory. We have to talk about creating a network of us, right? That was one of the pillars, right?
Yeah.
So that we know, how do I find, if I'm looking for a technological company in Jamaica, where am I going to go find that, right? What if I sell peripherals? What if I sell whatever I'm selling? And I want to do business in Jamaica, but do I know how that what the landscape is? No, I don't know that. And do I know companies there? No. So we have to build that network. It does. We if we're gonna go into Africa and in Ghana. So is there a manufacturer that also um, that has a distributor in the state that I live in? Right, I live in California. So is there a manufacturer here? I know there are a lot of Guyanese that live here in California, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Do I know how to get to them? No, I don't. So that requires us creating that network so that we can now identify who we are. We just can't just jump into this. We have to build the structure. And if there are, what other countries have um, uh, that are looking for, say, a black owned U.S. supplier? So we have to create a way that we can find each other when we're looking for each other. So that would be that. Now, can we just go about doing this willy nilly, Gilbert? Or do you think
no, no. This has got to be planned and organized.
right? So in order for us to do business here in America with a company, is there some sort of certification in place, or what do we think that's necessary if we're going somewhere else?
Yeah, there has to be trusted certifications to be relied upon, and for whichever markets we're approaching, because the systems that are established that are workable and work efficiently, that process has to be certified. So that's really what we're doing right now with the connections we're making, the networks that we're building, you know, how to do those to make those company legitimate. So that's what that is.
Exactly. Um, and when and the same thing, and any one of you that are in Gilbert's class, he has talked about what that looks like. How does your company um, how are you operating? Do you have all of um, your procedural documents in one place? Do you what are your standards of operation? What are you? How do you reach capacity? Can you get to capacity? Because again, you can't go
Yeah,
jumping out there saying I'm going to supply this whole country and you make 5 widgets and that's all you've ever made was 5 widgets, right? So
exactly.
does that mean that you need partners that might do some of the same thing that you do? So
Right.
that's what we you got to be ready. And I would say, I mean, you got to be ready to do the contractual business here in the United States. I would say if we're going outside of, if we're branching out into the global universe, then all our I's and all our T's got to be crossed. Would you
Got
agree
to
with
be
me?
crossed. And the thing about it is the way we do business back at a yard, so I call it back at home. Back at home, the way we do business back at home may not be the way business is done in a foreign market. So we got to learn and understand those practices, learn and understand how things are done, understand the culture, because certain things that we may ignore or certain things that we may take importantly here may be handled differently in another culture. So these are things that we need to understand, in order for us to deliver effectively and efficiently. And that certification process that we talk about is one that comes through vetting and having created trust. So those things have to be done, guys. You got to do your homework. You got to, establish. It's just like you're trying to do business with a partner. What's the first thing you do when you're trying to do business with a partner, other than asking them informational question? You go out and you have lunch with them. You have lunch, you sit down and you talk with them, and where all the guards are kind of lowered, and then you just have discussions about their organization, about their system, about their culture, learn how they do business. Want to find out how they've been doing this over the last 10, 20, 15, 20 years. Okay, so you've done it that way. And what have you achieved that by doing it that way? Well, in order to achieve twice or three times that amount, what systems or processes you think need to be involved in that? And then those are things that help you to get to another level with regard to this collaboration, this partnership.
Exactly. And as with all businesses, capital is necessary. Businesses need financing for inventory, for equipment, for exporting, manufacturing, technology, expansion. They need trade finance, joint ventures. So, what's the other thing that we focus in on here in America is making sure that you're bank ready, right? That you're capital ready. So
Yeah.
that means if those things are not in place, you're not ready to make that venture just yet. Not to say
Yeah.
that it can never happen, but it's saying that you have to have these things in place because we're looking at a bigger marketplace. And so you have to be able to have enough inventory, have enough equipment, have employees to help you facilitate whatever it is the needs are if you were to create that network and that partnership and you have a certain skill set and they need what you have, then that means that we have to be precision. Now, do we have to do this alone? No, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, even here in America, it's not about us going at this as a solopreneur. We're going at this as a company of business, right, Gilbert?
Yes. And that's why when we do business with others and we think about doing business in a different market, we talk about joint ventures. Joint ventures are very critical to the taking on and the success of any project or any business operation. So a lot of people hear about joint ventures, but they don't really understand. They hear joint, so they're thinking, okay, we come together jointly. But that's just one small part of it. Joint venture meaning that your infrastructure is in place because the other party or parties that's trying to do business with you, they want to know that you know what the heck you're doing. They want to know you're not going to be a liability to them. And that's a big part of the reason why your finances is so important to a joint venture. They're going to look at your finances. You know, what your finances been over the last 7 years? You know, has it been steady? Has it been growing? Has it been declining? Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you're trying to do a joint venture and your finances, your revenues haven't been ascending where it's increasing, it's just going down. Very rarely are you going to get to do a joint venture with anyone because now you become a liability in their organization, on their books, in their financial system. So you know, a lot of small businesses, they have not done their taxes in 2, 3, 4 years. Guys, you gotta do those taxes. You gotta stay current because you never know when an opportunity will come up that you have to do a joint venture. So the taxes and the financial, the first thing. The second part of the joint venture is going to be the system, your standard operating procedure. How do you do business? And how do we do business? Can we collaborate? Can we bring those standard operating procedures together and make sure that they're working in the best interest of the joint venture? Because a joint venture means if your company is making 10 million, mine is making 10 million, then now we got a $20 million venture here. So we're gonna have to operate on that level of a $20 million business, not a 10 million anymore. So these are things you're gonna need to do. Joint venture, you're gonna have to have a joint agreement. An agreement, then a joint venture. That's how this is gonna work. No, joint ventures are not permanent, guys. They're not forever. They're for a period of time. So your joint venture could be for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Okay, depending on how long that transaction is going to be for. So these are things that small businesses need to know, need to understand. And we teach classes on these things. We teach you how to develop a joint venture agreement, what goes into the agreement, how you got to behave, how the other side got to behave. How you gonna look to how are you gonna look when a contract provider looks at you as a joint venture or another country's government? How are they gonna look at you when you come in as a joint venture? So all of these things, they are important, guys. It's significant.
Exactly. So, and that's how we have to look at this, because that's what would be coming in as joint ventures. We're not coming in it's not about just you. It's about how can we service each other, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about creating relationships, and we're creating partnerships, and how we can utilize and what our professions and how we complement each other. So that's the first part of the. I think that's the number two on the pillars is networks, right? Creating
Yeah.
networks with people that with the you can do so much more with many than you can do with one, and so that's what we're looking at. Then next is, and this is something that Gilbert and I, when we had this conversation over the weekend, is logistics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are the customs of the countries that we may potentially want to do business with?
Yeah.
How do you get there? What's the distribution? What's the transportation? What's the whatever? And what are the customs or the barriers that
Yeah.
can prevent certain things? And so, Gilbert is actually from Jamaica. So Jamaica, how does Jamaica operate different than, say, us here in the United States, Gilbert?
Well, one of the biggest things that I knew back then, but I also learned a little bit more about it, uh, speaking to our potential business partner last weekend, is that distribution, transportation, warehousing, and maintenance is so key. Now, here in the U.S., we've got energy. We've got, depending on which state or region or county you're in, you may have Southern California Edison, you may have SoCal Gas. In New York, I know they have Edison, Con Edison. New York and New Jersey, they've got that Con Edison. So different regions have different energy companies that provide services. Now, what we've learned is that when you're doing business in certain Caribbean nations or certain African nations, now, because of their energy system, you may not even have power for 8 hours of the day.
Yeah.
So when that's the case, you got to come up with alternative system of making sure that power is there. And if the power gets interrupted, that may interrupt your delivery systems. It may interrupt your storage system. It may interrupt your operational system. So all of these things are things that you need to check out and make sure you understand those and make provisions for that also. So that's a part of your logistics as well. A big part of your logistics when doing business in foreign countries. Check that out. Who knows? Maybe you'll have to get generators available, so that you can keep the operation going. It doesn't interrupt your computer system, your refrigeration system, none of that. What if it's a manufacturing facility you're doing business with? They're going to need that power to do the manufacturing, maybe 24/7. you know, so we can't have that kind of interruption in business. And then the shipping, the distribution, it depends on the route that you're taking. Certain routes cannot be interrupted. Whether it's port, air cargo, distribution, last mile delivery. These are things that are really crucial to your operation. So logistics is really key, guys. So that's something you're going to build into your plan as well.
And then that's also an opportunity. Let's say you are in the solar business. Well,
Yeah.
the one thing I do know that they do have in the islands in the Caribbean is sun. Lots
Yeah.
of it.
That's a big resource there.
So that may be a big opportunity for you. Also in that, Gilbert, is not just that, but then there's weather. Weather
Yeah.
that, most of a
Yes.
lot of the Caribbean islands, from late August, which is right about now, late August
Yeah.
on into October, there's lots of hurricanes. If you guys have been watching the news over the years, and of course the climate has changed so drastically,
Yeah.
and no one thinks it's a real problem,
Right.
um, but it is. And so in that real problem, if depending on what type of business you're trying to do, and if you need to get to the island and not being able to get there due to weather conditions such as tornadoes, that also includes connections through digital connections and telecommunication connections. Everything kind of shut down. But
Yeah.
however, if you happen to be in the disaster relief business, these are
Yeah.
opportunities for you. So we got to
Right.
learn to think differently and see
Exactly.
how we can help based upon what we do.
Yes, and that's a good point you brought up there, co-host, about the disaster recovery programs. When you have interruptions like those, whether it's power, whether it's hurricane, whether it's tornado, whether it's tsunami, whether it's earthquake. Like, for example, I just got a notification, I think it was yesterday or last night, that there was a 6.7 earthquake in Peru. So if, let's say, that business was in South America, that's going to be interrupted. 6.7. Here, what we learned here in Los Angeles is that any earthquake system that's over 5.7 on the Richter scale, that means that people can die. So 6.7, there's a strong possibility that there's death. There are people dying from those earthquakes. So that too can disrupt things. And that's why having power in place to maintain refrigeration and lighting and all of that is so crucial. So all of that on the logistics need to be maintained and be managed efficiently and planned for it. So,
Exactly. So, and also on the other side of that coin, that's opportunities.
yeah,
Opportunities lie in every obstacle is an opportunity, in my
that's
opinion.
true.
That's how I look
That's
at it. So
true.
everything is an opportunity. And
Yeah,
so you want to look at it, if you're in those businesses, then that's an opportunity for me. Let
yeah,
me start doing my research. So we're trying to help you guys kind of get out of the box, to kind of think out of the box. And so
yeah,
whatever we're speaking on resonates with you in these areas and in the areas of the pillars. Now you need to start to do some of research on your own and see if there are opportunities for you and what that would look like for you personally. And then, as Gilbert said, we'll be doing a courses. We will let you know when that will happen, on how we can prepare your business to be ready for that. But you need to know first, is there business for you? Then the
right.
next one is payment services. So every business wants to make sure they get paid.
Yeah,
I don't care whether you're here in the United States or you on the moon. Is
yeah,
there a way for me to get paid on the moon, right?
yeah,
So, and you want it to be safe, and you want it to be efficient. So, how does one get paid across borders? And so, there are that in the U.S. There used to be something called the USAID aid, and that was some of the infrastructure from the governmental side. But there are ways that we can actually create that safety for ourselves. One thing is, we're using third party um, payment structures like PayPal. I want secure ones. PayPal or Authority Net. I believe, Gilbert, that's what you use, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's others. Stripe. These are also globally accepted. And then there are global banks that operate here in the United States as well. I think that the HSBC banks are BA banks. I think are those banks. I know in certain countries in Africa they're there, and they're there in certain countries in the Caribbean. So being able to act, and those same banks are here in America, and so you literally could have an account at those banks that you're going to do business in, and then you can do wire transfers uh, from the in the same bank to another country. So now the bank is federally, FDIC is federally, guidelines are in place, and so now you can feel comfortable. But there are others as well, and there are African banks that are here or in New York, or that you could actually set up your accounts with in order to do that. But again, all of this requires some research and making sure that you can have access to a secure and safe, efficient way of being paid. That we always have to know that that's there and in place before we start venturing into places. And everyone has to do their due diligence. This is not something you can just jump out there and say, put your shingle up today and say tomorrow I'm doing business there. No, you can't do that. We have to do, there are steps to get to that. And so I'm gonna let Gilbert take the next one on the education process of what this looks like.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, with the business education, it's similar to what we do here. We do business training, we do coaching, infrastructure development. All of those things are things we do with entrepreneurs. So, entrepreneurs need to understand that international pricing, currency, and contracts are really key items must be put in place in order to adhere to compliance, which should include taxes and export documentation in order to maintain that compliance. Now, one of the things that we discovered in talking to our contacts, say in Jamaica last week, is that they definitely need for us to implement either a mentorship program or a training program for their small businesses. So they understand how business is conducted, understand the infrastructure that need to be developed, the systems that's going to help that to work. So all those other areas that my co-host just mentioned in terms of payment system, in terms of logistics, capital, and all of that's going to be connected in your system, your operation, your standard operating procedures. So all of those things are training that must be executed and implemented. So when we do that to help folks to understand, okay, we know that your business is supposed to work this way under these laws. Our business is working this way under these laws. Now, how do we get connected? Well, the joint venture system is what we're going to use to bring both of those systems together. And that's going to be done via a contract. So, with that being said, okay, now currency comes into place because people need to be paid. Now, one of the payment process which I didn't mention above under the payment systems is letters of credit. Letters of credit are usually established through bank. When you have your bank accounts, you have a letter of credit which shows that you have the credibility to have X amount of dollars available. So when your collaborator wants to be paid, then they can feel comfortable that they're going to be paid because that money has been verified by the bank. Now, currency, we need to understand the exchange rates when we're doing business. Let's say we're doing business in Jamaica. So we know the US currency is pretty strong. So one US dollar would be equivalent to 160 Jamaican dollars. So the things that you do, so let's say um, you're doing a transaction that is worth 10,000 Jamaican dollars, then you do the calculation. How many Jamaican dollars will be equivalent to the American dollars. And if it's 60 to one, 160 to one, then you can calculate that easily and see how it works. So you want to have an exchange rate system set up so that the currency part can be done when you're pricing your product or services. You understand under that system how it's worked. You're not going to do what you do in American currency there in those countries. You're going to have it set up in their currency. And then always, always, always put together a contract, guys. You got to have a contract. And that's why it's important to have legal assistance or support on your team. You got to have an attorney. You're doing business in two different countries, two different types of rules. You have your attorneys, they're going to have theirs, and make sure that you know that your attorney is going to be looking out for your best interests. So that's it. And you're going to try to see what kind of taxes are available. Like one thing I learned is that, within the transportation business there in Jamaica, there's a certain tax on it. We never paid attention to it before here because systems are set a certain way, but in their area there are certain added taxes that you got to deal with. So you got to factor that in your contract, in your agreement, and in the business expenses and the costs as well. So you got to have classes on those, guys. You got to learn how that works, and having a consultant who understand that can provide you some guidance and coaching as well. And then the export documentation, that's going to be another key. And one of the most, and we talk about the culture, the business culture, how it works there versus here. So for those of you guys, if you've never been to, say, Jamaica or many of the Caribbean islands, they have a system where they tell you, hey, we have a meeting at 8 o'clock. They may not even show up until 9 or 10. That's a part of the culture. So, some people may get upset about that. Like, hey, man, we said 8 o'clock. We mean 8 o'clock. So that's something you're gonna have to work with. I don't know how to tell you to make that work, because I've seen foreign organizations come in before and say, hey, I told you 8 o'clock. What are you doing? Hey, you know what? We come in at 9 or 10 whenever we want. So here's the deal. You either do business with us or you do business somewhere else. So it's going to be up to you guys to do business that way. And the nonchalant approach that they have about timing is the same thing they have about scope of work too. So, you got to make a decision, guys, whether or not you want to work with those folks that way, or you want to set up some systems in place with some legal guidelines and guardrails in there that say, hey, you show up late, it's going to cost you a fee or something like that. You're slowing down the project, it's going to cost you a fee. So something like that. Or they're going to say, hey, you know what? We are what we are. This is how we operate.
We are what we are.
And then finally, risk management. Risk management is always a big factor in any business that you do. Anything you do, there's risk. You drive your car down the street, there's a risk. Somebody could run in front of you, or somebody could drive into you and don't have insurance. All of those things happen. So risk management, you want to be able to manage risk. So you want to seek out insurance to cover things, or a bond. Depending on the business activity you're doing, that you may require a bond, or you may just require insurance to make sure that your revenue your income is protected and it's not going to be jeopardized by somebody not following the rules or somebody say, hey, we are what we are. Right? So,
and that might mean that that country might not be the country you want to do business with. So because that can be quite frustrating, depending
exactly.
on what you're selling and what you're doing. So that brings me to the business matchmaking. I think that's a great segue into that, right? So not all not all countries are going to be your country.
That's right.
The one that you want to do business with. If you're one of those anal kind of people, I'm gonna tell you that ain't gonna work with you. So you want to be able to make sure. So having a directory isn't just enough. So yeah, we get everybody into these directories, but and you know whatever that is, but the directory you have to be able to know who needs what I provide and who provides what I need, right? But that
Yeah.
also means, as Gilbert just said, there are other factors have to be in place because when you do business with somebody as a partnership, it's like a marriage. And so
Yeah.
if you're not compatible to each other, I
Right.
don't care how much money's on the line. I don't care what that is. It is just not going to work. And so you want to make sure we want these to be successful. And that'll be something that we'll cover in our courses, how to make sure that one who you are as a business person, what kind of manager, what kind of whatever that personality, what do they call those KPI, what is that the program you have,
Uh,
Gilbert?
knowing your personnel.
Yeah, knowing your personnel. And so this is will be something that you would have to know as far as who your partner, who is it that you can actually work with and you guys can become successful, because again, these are other countries, these are foreign, in our case, foreign countries to us, and their culture is different from our culture. We can't go in saying, well, this is the way I do it, and then
Yeah.
I need you to do it my way. No, that you either have to be able to find some compromising a situation or solution, or you have to decide if this really works for me, right?
Right.
And so you have to find someone that is more conducive to your personality. So same thing as if you're selecting a mate. You can't have a mate that is completely uh, completely anti anything, and you pro everything. That is not going to work. And so you want to be able to look at your partner and understand the nuances of, and also what your deal breakers are and your breaking points are, right? So
Exactly.
you have to, so this requires conversation. This is not just, this is different. You have to
Mhm.
see, one, I would think if you're doing business in a certain country, you probably need to go visit. And the reason I'm saying that you need to go visit is because of the fact that you need to understand the culture. Because
Yeah.
in some countries, it's an insult if you don't understand the culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that may be something that you'd have to do. So, you know, we will talk about that. But I think, as a partnership, Gilbert and I, we get along really well, and we've been doing this now. I don't even know how long. Well, we've been doing the show for 10 years,
Yeah.
and so and prior to that, we did some business together as well,
Yeah.
and so we're pretty comparable. And I think I'm pretty good at selecting the people that I do business with and that I'm partners with, and I have a lot of partners in my network. And but there are some that, even clients, that their personality and my personality just didn't mesh, and so I had to step away. And I'm sure, Gilbert, you've had the same
Oh
scenario.
yeah.
You're
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Gilbert is
Yeah.
very by the book kind of guy,
Yeah.
and
I'm by the book, man. No nonsense.
and,
I'm no
and he
nonsense.
don't take unnecessary risky shortcuts.
Exactly. My risk management and risk mitigation system is top notch, man. I don't play. The first sign of exposure to liability, I am cutting that off. I'm putting
Right.
a stop to it. It's not going to get. And the thing about it is, and like my co-host was saying, that her and I, we've been working for a long time. Working with someone like that, you have to respect that person. And if I didn't have respect for her and she for me, vice versa, we wouldn't have gotten this far, you know. And the respect comes in when the work ethic is there, the principle is there, and the person, you don't have to babysit them and tell them everything they need to do. Like Crystal is strong in certain areas. I don't need to talk to her about that. She does her thing. I'm strong in certain areas. She doesn't need to talk to me about, hey, what are you doing over there? We just develop what we do, and then we come together, we put it all together, and we make it happen. Just like we're doing this presentation now on doing business with the Afro-Caribbean diaspora. It's the same thing. We bring different strengths to the table, guys. But respect is key, is very important. And exposure to liability, you gotta make sure you put a lock on that. You can't, and that's how my co-host is gonna tell you guys a little bit about taking things back to Main Street right now.
Right. So when we talk Main Street, and that's really that's what we represent is I'm part of leadership in the city that I live in. But I also work and coach with Main Street. And so it always comes down to the regular person that's doing business on Main Street. So no matter where you're watching the business zone from, whether that's Los Angeles, that's Atlanta, that's Chicago, New York, Houston, anywhere out of the country. I've been seeing that there are people in Japan that like our show.
Yeah.
But what can you actually do? So this is called taking personal assessment of your skill sets and your opportunity, what you do, what your company does. So if you're a beauty company, now what you want to do is you're looking for opportunities for being able to you're looking for suppliers, right? So you're going to research the Caribbean suppliers, you're going to research the African suppliers for natural ingredients, where these countries are huge on natural ingredients. That's what they do. And
Yeah.
so if you're looking to make yourself stand apart and not just be part of generic a mainframe of the beauty industry, you're going to be able to look for those industries. And right now, that's huge. People are looking for natural products that are conducive to their body, to their skin, to their hair. If you're a consultant, like myself and Gilbert and Zed here, you're going to be looking, exploring how you can provide services to countries that want to enter the U.S. marketplace, right? Or if your skills or your consultancy transfers over to another country, you speak multiple languages, then you're going to be looking at how you can do business within country's culture. And if you're in technology, then you're going to look for countries that are developing cybersecurity. Huge if you could be doing business across the United States, the world. AI, fintechs, digital service partnerships. These are huge and everywhere in the world, not just here in America, but in the world, the scope of the world. And if you're in food, you're going to explore specialty foods, agriculture, processing, distribution, and retail. And so you want to think out of the box right now. We sometimes think very cloistered. We right here, we think linear, but and I see it every day. Every time I coach a client, they're telling me, they got limitations, and then I go, well, what about this and this and this and this? And it's like, I hadn't thought about that. So that's what we're talking about. In construction, you're looking for countries that have infrastructure development, and that is laughing. You want to identify procurement and subcontract opportunities in other countries. Trust me, in certain countries that are just building their new, everybody's in like development right now. And
Yeah.
so if here in California we have no more land to build on, that's just bottom line, right?
Right.
So and you as a contractor, it's probably pretty limited out there. They also, with the advent of the ICE, they've removed out a lot of the people that can help you build,
Mm.
which now has limited and probably drastically changed your economic landscape. And so maybe you need to be looking for opportunities for other countries. Mexico is doing some amazing stuff right about now, building their country and making it more modernized. So maybe that you just don't think about just doing here. And then, of course, if you are in a creative, oh my God, the music, the film, the fashion, the animation, the gaming, the licensing, the digital content, the world is your oyster. And so you need to
Mhm.
not just think about doing that stuff right here. You want to think about, broadening your horizons, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you are an investor, now you want to look at what businesses and industries are emerging throughout the diaspora. And now you can think about doing your investing throughout the diaspora. So that's kind of where we are today. We have more, but we're going to uh, uh, carry on next week. But now we want the homework for everyone that's listening is to really, I hope it just opened up some ideas and your mindset. Now start doing your research. Start looking outside of what you normally look for. How can I expand my business? Am I uh, is my business expandable? Can I go global? And what does that look like for me specifically? And then do an assessment of what you need in order to do that. So that way, when Gilbert and I start our courses, you know exactly the areas that you need to focus on. And so that's kind of what this is the whole purpose of this, is to really get us thinking outside the box and thinking, hey, maybe I do want to do business outside of where I am, my neighborhood, my city, my state, um, the nation. Maybe I want to do business. And so now on a real tip, guys, uh, when you look around America right now, we're kind of in a very chaotic state. And if you guys remember the pandemic, after we came out of the pandemic, it literally took us about 7 years to recover. And so, with that being said, it's going after this is all said and done, it's probably going to take us about, I've heard an economist say, about 10 years to recover. Once we find out what has gone on in this lovely world that we're in right now. And so we want to be ready. We don't want to wait to, if this happens to go on another 2 years, which Lord, don't let it go on for another 2 years. But we can't wait until we're already there to start planning. We need to do that planning right now. So when we need to pull the trigger, we could be already doing business in another country, right? We could already be generating revenue, bringing it into taking care of our families. But we can't wait, and we definitely can't wait till 5 years in trying to hope for that this is going to all change magically overnight. You're not going to survive. So just think about where you were during the pandemic, and what if we had not had the CARES Act, what would be happening to your business right now? So now we want to be able to prepare, so we'll be ready and already in mode before we actually get to that place.
And
You agree, Gil?
I believe for the homework assignment for the folks who are listening to this program or watching this program is to start looking at businesses and industries that are emerging in the African diaspora or the Caribbean diaspora. So look at Caribbean countries that you think are they're emerging or their industries are emerging that you can do business with. You know, my co-host mentioned cybersecurity, AI, and all the system distribution, the food, the agri business, agricultural business, you know, which is big. And as you know, people all over the world, they've got all kinds of ailments, you know, they're sick. But a lot of the solution to those things are big pharma trying to sell you synthetic drugs that really doesn't cure you, but what it does, it kind of slow down the illness or the problem that you have with massive amounts of side effects. And now the side effects become the problem. So many of these Caribbean and African nations, they've got agricultural products, plant-based systems. That's it's health-wise, it's good for you, and you may want to look at those and see, hey, you know, which countries have those that maybe we can do some business or tap into. And again, like I say, you know, the relationship doesn't have to come to the Americas. It could stay there in the Caribbean. It could stay in Africa as long as you got good contracts, good agreements, good joint venture system in place. You can thrive. You know, you want to definitely have an attorney on your team, guys. You know, that we talk about the five key uh, professionals you want to have attached and associated with your business. You want to have a banker. You want to have an insurance agent who knows what the heck he or she is doing. You want to have an attorney that really knows, understand business, you know, especially international business. You want to have that. You want to have a CPA or an accountant that really understand what's going on in the marketplace, in the tax laws, different markets. And finally, you want to have a professional business coach that really understand what the hell she or he is doing. You have those five people in your corner and you can't go wrong. So some of the decisions that you're making, you will run it by them for advice and guidance first before you jump into it. And that's the way you'll succeed, guys. So what we presented you here today is just another option, an alternative to what you can do to stay away from those redlining systems. That's not good for us. It's only good for the authors. It keeps them rich and keeps us poor and destitute. So we gotta, you know, find alternatives and work on it, make it happen. So those of you out there having doubts, thinking about it, second thoughts about how you want to grow your business, guys, this is an opportunity. And we're not just blowing smoke your way. We've tested this out, we've seen it, and we're pursuing this for ourselves too. So we're not just telling you to do something we're not doing. So think about it, guys. We got to get started with these classes soon. So we get you prepared, get you certified to do business in either the Caribbean or the African diaspora. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Gotta get this.
All righty. So we don't need another century.
No.
Just to keep talking about this. If we're gonna make it happen, we got to kind of start to working toward it. We have technology, we have entrepreneurs, we have resources, we have consumers. We even have here in America the consumer power. Remember that 2.2 trillion dollars. Just think about what that really looks like in dollars. We have knowledge, we have capital because we got that 2 trillion. And increasingly, we are now having the conversation, and not just us, around the world. And so now what we need is the infrastructure, both within our businesses here and abroad. And so since we're all talking about unity, let's make unity happen, but let's make unity happen with a strategy and a plan.
That's right. That's right. And if you don't remember anything else, guys, you remember the Garvey economic collaboration model that my co-host and I went over. It's 5 pillars, guys. The first one is trade. Second one is investment. The third one is ownership. The fourth one is networks. You build your networks. And the fifth one is institutions. So if you have those spread out in the system, and you may want to write it down right now, and then you plan and you execute, you cannot go wrong, guys. So we're sharing with you some resources that you guys can become rich and be successful. And we got to, like Izette said, we have to think creatively, guys. Got to be creative. Got to think creatively. So that's
exactly. So it's not the linear way, it's the creative way. So you got to go back there. I always tell my students, Gilbert, go back to when you were 5, when you had you were at your highest creative peak. So go back to when you were there and think about what business looks like. So don't look at it as what you read in your history books or what you went to school for. As an engineer, man, you could clean up in these countries because you have education, you have training, there's opportunities for you. So we're building the global Black economy, one partnership at a time. So that. So just from the word alone, this is not a solo experience. This is actually a partnership experience. We're doing this in unity. So we gotta that's part of that creativity too, is being able to think that we can do this and no one can stop us. So with that, guys, we're gonna sign off for today. We're gonna wish you all a great weekend. Hope you stay cool, drink lots of water. Be safe out there, and we will see you next Friday. Go over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, but also check out the videos we've been doing. This is our I think our fifth.
I think it's the fourth one.
Fourth one. So go on over there, look at all of the videos, and then also hit the subscribe button so that you get notifications when we go on air. But we are here every Friday at 3:00. And bringing you this phenomenal information. So take advantage of it. We'll see you guys all next week. Have a fantastic week. Bye for now.
As a small biz pro, so we roll, using procurement, program, and control. As a small biz pro, so we grow, using procurement, program, and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur.